You are watching DHTV from California State University, Dominguez Hills.
Hi, I'm Dr. Pamela Kreiser, and welcome back to NCR 525, which is our course on mediation. Today we're going to do a special format, and the goal for our session today is to look over the stages of mediation and understand how the stages work together and how we accomplish different tasks inside of each of the stages. As you know from our previous sessions, that I divide up the mediation process into 5 stages. So the first one is the opening. The second is storytelling and issue identification. The third is building the agenda. The fourth is negotiating and problem solving. And the fifth is writing and testing the settlement agreement. So as we look at those 5 stages and how they work together, today I've invited a group of actors to go through the mediation process in each of the stages so that we can look at each of them on a general level and kind of problem solve and talk about what went well and what didn't go well in each of the stages. Now, as you watch the mock mediation, something to keep in mind is that we've chosen a simple example today. And the goal for the simple example is to be a teaching platform. So as you think about it, just realize that the simple example is designed for learning. The second part to know before you start watching is that no mediation is perfect. And I very often in training the 100 or so mediators, maybe 150 mediators a year that I train, many mediators try to get it right all the time. And what I would tell you from personal experience and from training so many mediators, it is not achievable. It's sort of like the idea that you and I would set out on a given morning and say, today I'm going to communicate perfectly. And we would just decide to be a perfect communicator for the rest of the day. It's just not achievable. So as we look at the example, realize that some of the components that are in the mock mediation are designed to promote learning and discussion as we go through each of the stages. So let's talk about the first stage that you're going to see, and that's the opening. We've talked previously about the opening with the notion that this is where the mediator does a number of important tasks. Of course, building trust and rapport are very key. And another idea here is to establish the ground rules, the foundation, understand mediation, and also talk about confidentiality. When we talk about all of those things, we set the stage for a great mediation. So let's turn now to our actors and watch this first stage, the opening.
Good morning and welcome to the Neighborhood Justice Center. My name is Nia and this is my co-mediator Dennis. You may call us by our first names. How would you like to be addressed?
Jerry's fine.
Jerry, and you?
Kathy, please.
Kathy. All right. So hello and thank you both for your willingness to be a part of this process here today. I'm going to explain to you a little bit of what mediation is and what we can expect here today in the session. So mediation is a chance for us to, or for you guys to have a structured conversation with the help of us as a neutral third-party facilitator in this communication. So our role, again, as I said, is to be a neutral third party. In this role, we will refrain from judgment of the issues and we will not take any sides. It is important to note that we cannot make any decisions for you, nor can we force any decisions on any party. Our main objective is to help you communicate your issues to the other party from your own perspective. Once we come to a better understanding of the issues, we will then go on and try and form a solution that satisfies the needs and interests of both parties. If an agreement is reached, that agreement will be put into written form and you guys will review it, and if it reflects the agreements and the solutions that we've made and created today, or you guys have created today, then we'll sign it. And all right, you will each be given the opportunity to speak about your concerns without any interruptions. If necessary, we may request what's called a caucus, and that is where we would speak to each party individually. That sometimes is necessary to help the process move forward. We would like to remind you that the mediation process is voluntary. So this means that both parties must agree to enter the session, but that also means that either of you can choose to leave the session if you so choose to. And lastly, we want to assure you that this mediation is strictly confidential. So before we start, we want to ask you to agree to these ground rules. Treat the other party with dignity and respect at all times. Do not interrupt during the session. If you do feel the need to interrupt, please take notes so you can make your point later during the session. No name calling, derogatory language, or swearing. Do not use your cell phone or any electronic devices during the session. If you do need to make a phone call, we can break for a quick 5 minutes and you can go out in the hall and make the call if you need to do so. Just let us know. Please present all relevant information and documents having to do with your issues. Do not walk out during the session. If you need a break for any reason during the session, please let one of us know, and we can again break for a quick 5 minutes. Lastly, anything said in mediation cannot be used outside of this session. It is completely confidential, as I said. Are these agreeable to each of you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah? Kathy?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, and as my partner said, this is confidential. Nothing will be discussed outside of here unless we do come to agreement at the end. And since it is confidential, do you mind signing here, Kathy?
Yeah.
Thank you. And Jerry, can you please sign on this side?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions before we begin?
Not right now.
No? And Kathy?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will start with Kathy, since you brought us in here today.
So the next part that we're going to watch are actually stages 2, 3, and 4. And the reason we're going to watch them together is that it is not a clean process when we think about the stages of mediation. In other words, when we think about how we go through the progress, sometimes we'll hear storytelling and then people will suggest a solution, or they might actually go back from where they're generating solutions back to telling the story. And we're going to see in this next clip that as long as all of the functions get met, it doesn't necessarily matter that it's a perfect linear line, and we've talked about this in previous sessions. So when we think about stage 2, we're going to think about storytelling and issue identification. Stage 3, building the agenda, that's identifying what those issues are with the disputants, and then generating some solutions and problem solving. So as we take a look at this next clip, let's look for all of those functions.
So, Kathy, we're going to start with you. Can you please tell us why we're here today?
Yes, okay. So, Jeremy and I, sorry, Jerry, he's going by, have been neighbors for about 5 years. I considered us pretty good friends, cordial kind of living situation, never had any problems before. But then he got this air conditioner about 5 months ago, and it's been rattling all night. I like to leave my window open because it gets very hot where we live, and he just leaves this air conditioner on all day and all night. I don't know how he has the money for the electricity bills, but I can hear it in my apartment. We're very close together, you know, in a shared apartment complex, so I can really hear it. And I'm a teacher, you know, so I'm grading papers, often late into the night, and then I want to go to sleep. But A, it's very distracting when I'm trying to get anything done, and then B, I literally can't sleep with it. I live in kind of a studio type apartment, so there's not much, you know, wall space between the living room and my room. And yeah, it basically goes on all night. Very noisy. I've tried to talk to him about it several times, and he, you know, he just blows me off or laughs at me. And yeah, I just think it needs to come to an end. If he doesn't cut it out, I'm gonna call the police and get like a noise complaint filed on him. But I don't want to do that.
Now, you mentioned apartments. Do you guys live next door to each other, on top or bottom?
Yeah, we live next door, and the air conditioner is just right next to mine. And it faces my window. Where his living room is, it's like kind of adjacent in that way. But yeah, it's a really close space, and it's not fair to have something so noisy in such a small enclosed space. It's a really old apartment building, so it's kind of designed funky.
Okay, and you mentioned that you were neighbors for 5 years, and the air conditioner has been an issue for 5 months. Was there any other issues in that time?
No, we didn't really have any other issues. We would say hi to each other. I used to have my boyfriend who lived with me. He moved out. He helped me move some boxes one time when he was moving out. So it was cordial. It was totally fine. And when the air conditioning first started, I went, and just knocked on his door and was like, hey, you have this AC. Can you maybe try to turn it off at night at least? Or, because I know it's not quite as hot at night than it is during the day. But he basically slammed the door in my face. And again, just showed me that he doesn't really care and he's not the neighbor that I thought he was. So.
Okay. I'm going to take it over to you, Jerry. Do you mind letting us know why we're here today?
Well, I am still trying to figure it out as well. I mean, apparently I guess it's because my air conditioner makes too much noise, but I don't see how that's the problem. I've been having my air conditioning for about 5 months or so, and I really don't understand how it's affecting her life so greatly. I sleep just fine, and I haven't had any other complaints from my other neighbors, so I don't really understand. I think she's over-exaggerating a little bit. And also, she forgot to mention that she actually inserted this light directed to my window that actually affects me and my sleeping as well. So it's like both of us aren't getting any sleep at night now.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, maybe an issue for the both of you might just be peaceful living. So maybe we can see if we'll try and figure out these issues some more and see how we can come to a solution later on in the session to get you guys more towards that. Anything else you want to share? Can you tell us some more about the light?
Well, she put it up and it's pointing directly at my bedroom window. And it's very bright.
Okay.
And how long ago did the light get placed there?
Probably like right after my AC got set up.
So would you say 5 months, 4.5 months?
I would say probably about 4.5. 4.5.
4 months?
Okay. So we'll go back a little bit here. Kathy was mentioning that there was an attempt at communication. Can you tell me about?
Well, she did come to my door, but the way she approached the situation was, she was just coming at me crazy.
Can you describe the situation a little bit more for us, please?
She was just, she came knocking and she had an attitude right off the bat, and I just wasn't having it. It was a long day for me, and I had so much work to do, and I was stressed, and the way she just approached me, I felt like I just did not want to deal with it, and so I just...
Typical man, I come and assert my rights as a person living on that property. I was totally cordial to you. I knocked on your door. I asked nicely about the air conditioner.
So Kathy, I just want to remind you that we want to go through this process as smoothly as we can, and interrupting each other does not help the process move forward. So we'll come back to you in just a moment so you can share your interests and what you need. But for now, we'll limit the interruptions to 0.
I just feel like he's not saying the truth.
Okay, so we'll unfold this situation a little bit more. Jerry, anything else you want to add here? So you were saying there was attempts at communication, but it wasn't successful?
I guess if that's what she considers an attempt. But I mean, how loud can air conditioner be? You guys have air conditioners, right?
Well, so what do you want out of this session today?
What I want is for her to take down that light and for me to have my air conditioner.
Okay. Kathy, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would like the noise from the air conditioner to stop. And he is completely over-exaggerating the light, first of all. I have the light because I like to do my makeup in the morning. I like the light. I may have gotten it, after the air conditioner, but it seems to me that he doesn't care about blatant life interruptions. So why would he care about the light if he's having this noisy air conditioner go all the time?
How can it use the light if it's directly pointed?
So I'm
at
going to
my
stop you
window?
guys again here because we have another interruption happening. Again, I would like to remind you that this inhibits our process from moving forward. If you guys need to take a break, we can do that. But moving forward here, we're going to filter the communication through the mediators.
And I'd also like to add that if you feel it necessary that you have to take notes, I can provide you with paper and something to write with, so you guys can write down whatever you feel the need to say, and you can go back to your notes and let us know when it's your turn to talk. Would either of you like a piece of paper or a pencil?
I'm okay.
I think I'll be fine.
All right.
Okay, so we'll take a step back here and look at maybe some of the issues that we already have on the table here. So we know that there is an issue, Kathy, you have with the air conditioning, how that affects your living situation. And for Jerry, the light situation for you, it affects your living situation. So we can already see that we have some common ground here. And is there any other issues do you think you want to bring to the table?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Kathy, for you, anything else you want to bring?
I just think his rudeness on top of it all and his dismissal of my communication with him that I feel was very civil, very neighborly. I don't know where all his hostility is coming from.
Okay. So from what we're hearing, maybe there's an aspect of your relationship that possibly needs repairing.
I would say so because I don't know why he would vindictively put up that air conditioning. So yeah, if we could go back to being good neighbors again, the whole can I borrow a cup of sugar type kind of thing, that would be nice. But it seems to me that he has some vendetta against me for some reason.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit more? What does a good relationship look like to you as neighbors?
Well, like before, we would come home, we would see each other. I think there was a time we kind of had similar schedules there, so we would say, hey, be like, how are you doing? What's going on? And it was nice. Now I feel like when we come home, it's like this weird, awkward silence if we're ever walking in at the same time, or if I ever see him in the apartment building, or see him at his window. It's just awkward now. I feel gross and weird. There's some
Gross?
hatred. I feel like there's some hatred or something. I don't know why you would put some big noisy thing right near my window. Then I try and come talk to you about it. Are you mad at me for something?
Okay, so when do you feel the change in the relationship happened? I think you mentioned earlier a relationship with that and the air conditioning.
Yeah, it just seemed like right about when he got his air conditioner, we stopped talking for a little bit. He wouldn't say hi to me anymore when I would come into the building. And then it was super weird when I came to talk to him about the air conditioning, and he said, he thought I was being too aggressive when I was being totally nice, and was being super weird and wouldn't even talk to me about it. So I don't know what I did, but I just feel like this is all getting back at me for something.
Okay. Jerry, thoughts?
Well, I don't know why she feels like I'm trying to get at her for something when she's the one who spitefully put up the light. So I don't see how me wanting to stay fresh and me wanting to kind of, clean out the air from my allergies is being spiteful against her or trying to attack her. I'm just trying to attack the allergies. I just trying to breathe right and not sweat in my own home. Unfortunately, I can't just crack the window open because if I do, then I'll be sneezing up all day and it's not a pretty sight. And that's why I wanted to get the AC, and I feel like, if it's too loud, then she could get one too. Why can't she get an AC? She doesn't have to open the window. She won't have to hear my AC, and then we'll be fine. But it's a brand new AC, and I really don't understand how it has a big issue already. I just got it.
I have a quick question, Jerry. The AC, can you tell me more about it? Like what size is it?
Yeah, it's a decent. It's not too big, or it's an average size, I would say, and it's inserted in the window that is closest to her side of the apartment, and It's just, it has multiple settings, temperature and speed of the fan, but other than that, it's just a pretty kind of basic, classic air conditioner that you just stick in the window.
And I also heard you mention something about being able to breathe right. Do you mind telling me more about that?
Breathe right?
Yeah, you
Yeah, it's because I have allergies. I have a lot of allergies, and certain seasons they peak up more. Usually spring and summer, like these months right now, which is why I got it the last couple of months, just because it's been getting hotter, and then my allergies have been getting worse. So I decided that it was time for me to invest in one, and so I was saving up money for a little bit, and I finally invested in one, and I'm living better, and I feel fresh, and I feel good in my home now, and I don't have to worry about my allergies being crazy all the time, which is why I have it on most of the time that I am home. When I'm not home, I don't have it on. But when I am home, I like to have it on, and I like to do my work, and I like to just feel good, and it just makes my life easier when I can breathe. And
All right.
You mentioned that can fit in a window. Now, the window it's in, is it there any specific reason for that window?
only because it's closest to my living room,
Mhm.
and my bedroom is close to my living room, and so that's why I have it there. Just
Okay.
because so I can have it. I do most of my work in my living room, and my bedroom is close to it, so I kind of get it. I just want to hang out in my bedroom
Okay.
as well.
Okay, so I'm going to look at these issues a little bit from the outside here. So we know that we have the air conditioning and with Jerry and the light with Kathy here. And these both appear to be things that you each need. So we'll look at those things later and see if you guys can come up with a solution that allows you both to keep the things that you need, but also allowing yourselves and each other to live peacefully, as we were mentioning earlier. And then another aspect that we'll be looking at is the relationship between the two of you. Because it appears that you previously had a good neighborly relationship with each other and would like to get back to that, but there are just some issues that we need to communicate through.
I just want to hear more about why she put the light, because I really don't understand why.
Kathy?
Well, I feel like I need the light. I was a little more willing to put the light up and where I placed it after we had the heinous interaction where you completely blew me off. But if we could maybe get the air conditioner moved, I wouldn't be totally opposed to moving the light. He has another window that he could put the air conditioning on. I know because we live in the same unit, and I know that there's a back window that doesn't face anybody's apartment that you could totally put the air conditioning at. So I don't understand why he puts it there. And that's why I feel like it's a personal thing against me of why he would have to put it right next to my unit.
Okay. But as you mentioned, there seems to be options for different ways that we can maneuver the light and possibly the air conditioning to make the living situation a little bit better for the both of you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would be willing to move the light if the air conditioner could get moved.
Jerry, any thoughts on this?
I'll be willing to discuss what we could do.
Okay. Any thoughts on the air conditioning moving? What do you think?
I mean, it's
About
not
that.
my ideal.
So what does your ideal look like?
My ideal is that I really don't know if my air conditioner is making that much noise or if she's just saying it is. I don't know if it's really affecting her that much or she's just trying to get her way with something.
Have you gone and looked at
Hold
it
on,
all? I'm
Kathy.
sorry.
Would you like a piece of paper to write down whatever you think?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Like I said, it's brand new. I really don't get how it could be so loud or so rattly. Like I don't understand how there could be maybe a loose screw already or something of some sort since I just got it and it's a good, reliable air conditioner. You know, I paid decent money for it and I like it a lot. So I just don't know if it's really affecting her or if she's just.
Do you
angry.
think there's any way you can check on that, or what do you think? Any ideas?
I'm willing to call out a repairman if, Kathy's willing to help out with that as well, or if she's willing to be there so she could So if something's wrong with it, she'll hear. If something's not wrong with it, she'll know that there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay. Kathy?
I'm very down for that if you could get a repairman to look at it, because honestly, there's no way that there's not something wrong with that thing. It literally rattles. It sounds like a drag racer coming through.
Okay. So maybe we can do a little bit of a perspective taking exercise here. Kathy, you might be able to see how the light is an issue for Jerry. As for you, Jerry, the air conditioning's an issue for Kathy. So maybe from here on out we can think of new issues. New solutions going forward to get you guys to a more peaceful living situation.
I think so. I like the repair person idea.
Okay.
Someone could come out, but I'm not gonna pay for that. I hope you don't think.
What? You're the one that has an issue with it, though, and I'm doing it for you.
Okay,
Yes,
so
but
we'll
it's
think
your
about
air
this.
conditioner.
We'll each of you will come up with an idea of, how you think the situation should go down. Kathy, since you haven't, would you have an idea of how you want the payment to happen, or what do you think should happen?
I think you should go get the repair person yourself. They'll look at it. I'll be there. They can say something's wrong with it. And depending on what the damage is, maybe I could chip in a little bit for the repair.
Okay, so think of some more ideas. But at least from here, we know that there's some movement with the air conditioning, and like you mentioned earlier, Kathy, that might create some movement with the light as well, right? Jerry, any ideas of the air conditioning? What do you think?
Well, I think, yeah, I could bring out a repairman, but what am I going to do if I'm most positive he's going to say nothing's wrong with it? It's brand new. So what am I going to do? There's nothing wrong with it.
We did mention earlier some possibilities of moving it. How do you feel about that? Any thoughts?
I mean, it is possible, and I do have another window I could put it at, but it's just that's kind of a hassle to move it back to that window and just set it up and just got comfortable with it. But I mean, I guess it's something I can explore, but yeah.
Okay, well, think of that a little bit more, and think of any other ideas that you can bring to the table here to help create some solutions to our issue here. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, we can, Kathy, as far as the light goes, what possible solutions do you see for that?
The light is not getting moved unless something is done with the air conditioner. Either the repair person comes out or it gets moved, and then I'll move the light.
Okay,
That's
and
totally fine.
Would you move it to a different angle, or what does moving it look like?
Honestly, I could just move that to my bathroom or something.
So move it from where it's positioned right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in a window.
Okay.
So I have a place I can move it, not in the window. But it's just, he has to move the AC out. It doesn't feel fair for like me to have to move something if he doesn't have to move anything. You know what I mean?
Okay. So I'm hearing that fairness for you is important.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I feel like, he kind of caused this problem, so we have to both fairly make moves to fix it,
Okay. Jerry, any thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good to me. But
Okay.
Now, Jerry, moving back to the AC, you mentioned earlier that it's not ideal for you to move it, but is it a possibility? Is there any other ideas you have with the AC unit?
no, other than getting the repairman out, or moving, I feel like those are the best two things I could do, because I don't think they make like air conditioning mufflers or something like that. So the reason why I was leaning more to the repairman is just because it's kind of easier. But I am not opposed to moving it because honestly, like, other than it being a little bit of a hassle to move it, I would probably enjoy it just as much, you know.
So which option do you think you'd want to go with first?
I feel like maybe just moving it. Honestly, I feel like if the repairman comes out, and I honestly feel like nothing will be wrong with it 'cause it's new. And you know, what if nothing's wrong with it? I'd rather just kind of, you know, deal with the situation now and just have it done. And I don't really want to make it seem like I'm trying to make her life worse or not trying to, you know, work on it with her.
Okay, so you'd like to go ahead and figure how to move the air conditioning unit out of that window.
Yeah, and I would just appreciate some help too, because I mean, I live alone and it's kind of a hard thing. I had to get one of my buddies to come help me put it in, but you know, all my friends are busy and I don't really always have someone to kind of help me insert it.
Okay. And so the help you're asking for would be in the form of
Physical help, I would say, like just- from just anybody, or if Kathy could help me, that'd be awesome. But it's kind of hard to just do it one man show. So.
Okay, so Jerry is looking to move the air conditioning. How does that sound to you?
I really appreciate that, honestly. I can help you move it. I think that's really big of you to move the AC, so I can move the light also. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
But I'm just worried, like, if you move it to the back and it still makes all that noise, do you think then we can get a repairman if it's still a problem? I don't imagine it will be, but
How does that sound to you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because just moving it, I feel like it's harder than calling a repairman. So I feel like once it's moved and it still makes a lot of noise, then I'll probably believe more that there's like something wrong with it. It's getting to her from across the side. So I'm open to that. I don't feel like it's anything.
Okay.
So I'd like to take a step back really quick and just go over the steps that we've taken. So Jerry, you've stated that you're willing to move the air conditioner to a different position so that it wouldn't affect your neighbor. And you did ask for a little help from Kathy because the unit is a little bit bigger and is a two-man job. Kathy, you stated that once the AC unit was moved that you didn't have a problem taking the light inside or just completely moving it. Is there anything else, Kathy, you'd like to mention?
you know, although it's not my fault, I'm sorry it had to go down like this, but I'm glad we can like get it resolved instead of like me calling the police and doing like a lawsuit or something.
I appreciate that. I'm sorry too, even though, you know, I'm sorry that it caused you all this stress and it kept you up and affected your life. And I just want you to know that I didn't purposely get this ACM put up to get you or to ruin your sleep or to ruin your life. So I just hope, and I'm sorry for making you feel that way.
Okay,
I
and
appreciate that.
Yeah.
sounds like really good steps being taken. Now we'd like to get more into a little of when it's gonna happen. Jerry, when do you see you being able to move that air conditioning unit?
I can honestly do it, you know, the next, I would say, I'm off in a couple of days, so about the next 3 days, I feel like I'll definitely be able to do it on my day off. And definitely whenever, maybe like, I don't know, when Kathy's free, maybe we can plan something out.
Maybe sometime in the next coming week.
Yeah, in the coming week, you know, I don't feel like I need to stretch it out. So it's better.
Kathy, how does any of those sound okay for you?
That works for me. Just like for the next 2 days, do you need to like turn it on all night? Is my question.
I'll set up like a timer and I'll limit it to how much I actually need it. I'll put on a lower setting if needed.
Okay.
If not needed, I'll just turn it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it is, I mean, just feel free to just let me know that it's keeping you up.
Okay.
So on that note, we previously were discussing the relationship between you two. So moving forward here, let's talk a little bit about your future communication. How would you two like to see your communication with each other from here on?
I mean, I would like it to go back to how it used to be. I mean, friends, and you know, we used to just approach each other, no problem, or send text, call, no problem. So I would like for it to go back to that. I'd say maybe the day she approached me, maybe I was just probably having a bad day, a lot going on, so maybe I misinterpreted. So I just like knowing that we're on a even playing ground and kind of understand each other better. I would just like it to go back to that and us to have open conversation and back to, you know, a friend relationship.
Okay.
And for you, Kathy?
Same, yeah, same for me.
Okay. So in terms of communicating with each other, for example, you were mentioning her letting you know if it was too loud or if it was on late at night, something of that matter. How would you communicate with each other?
I would say maybe a text or a call, or if she could just walk over and either or. I'm pretty, you know, I don't
Okay.
mind any form. I'm not.
As long as you guys have that understanding with each other, what you expect from each other here on out in terms of communication. Kathy, how's that sound to you?
That sounds good. I have your number, so yeah, I can send you a text. And yeah, usually in previous times it's been fine to knock on the door. I just got, you know, tripped out by that last time and didn't really want to talk to you anymore. So yeah, I think this can be the start of like a new relationship or ways of communicating.
All right. Okay, so we have the air conditioning and the light issues are kind of paired together here. So we've discussed Kathy giving Jerry a hand, moving the air conditioning to another window of his apartment. Sometime in this coming week, we'll discuss a particular day, or you guys can discuss a particular day.
Was that on Monday you said that you were off?
Monday Monday. I'm usually off Monday and Tuesday mornings, but Monday would be
Okay,
ideal.
so we'll go with Monday. And you'll communicate with each other via text or talking to each other. And so then, Kathy, then you'll move the light to your bathroom, you said, is it?
Yeah, I can move the
Okay.
light.
And how soon can that be done?
Let's see. I can move the light tonight after we leave.
Okay.
It's not super necessary that I have it right now.
Okay,
So yeah, I can move it.
all right. And is there anything else that you guys would like to see in terms of like your communication or your relationship in this agreement here?
Not that I can think of right now. I think everything's pretty good.
Okay.
I think, yeah, if it can all just go back to normal, like, I'm super good with that.
Okay. All right. Because we can include an agreement in there that says something like parties agree to act respectful and cordial to each other. But if you don't think that's necessary to include, you let us know what you guys would like.
I think it doesn't hurt to add it.
Doesn't hurt, yeah, just like, we're gonna be respectful.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to do to close out?
No, thank you both again for being willing to participate in the mediation process and coming to a healthy decision and solution.
So we'll write this up and we'll reconvene, make sure that these reflect the agreements that you guys have created here today, and we can move on.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Now, as you look at the stages that we just saw, 2, 3, and 4, there are so many things that you might comment on. And as we talk about this example, we can think about a few different things. So one area to think about is the importance of question asking. And this is a very crucial tool of the mediator, because as we ask questions, then we get more information, and then that helps us inform other questions that we can ask to get to the bottom of things. We also need to follow up with probes, and that's something I'll talk about in my next show more specifically, this idea that we have follow-up questions to dig deeper into the issues. Now, one of the areas that I find challenging as a mediator myself is to stay structured and organized in conversation. And that's something we saw in this clip, where we saw issues being brought up and then brought up again. And then we saw people getting upset, but then fine, but then upset again. And the comment that I would make is we can't expect people to be structured with us necessarily if they come to us with a broken problem. And so it might be frustrating for you as a mediator to not see a perfect line, but to know that it's not a perfect process. The goal that we talk about is moving that progress bar. In other words, are you making progress toward a written agreement? And do you believe at the most basic level that these disputants will be in a better place than when they came in to see you for the mediation? A couple of things to notice in the clip that we saw is the tendency for individuals to stick to their positions rather than identify interests. You heard the mediator talk about that situation with the disputants. So one disputant said, I won't move the light, and then the other one said, I won't move the AC, which is a very positional thing to say. And then you had the mediator talking about, well, the common interest is to live mutually in an area of peace or in a state of peace as neighbors. And so when we think about that, that's kind of an interesting thing to look at, as you saw in that clip, how we have to move those disputants off of those positions onto the common interests. And that's something we can do to help them. Now, a couple things that we noticed. One is that sometimes in that structured conversation, we let disputants talk. And as we let disputants talk, we do that if we believe it's making progress. Again, that is the bottom line for any decision you make as a mediator. We also would use that same thinking to manage interruptions. So sometimes individuals interrupt. It wasn't too bad in this example, but we know that sometimes individuals interrupt, and they do this because they want to get their point across, or they want to make their claim, or explain how much they matter in this area, or what they think about it, or how mad they are. And the comment I would say is that it's all about the progress. So if you believe that that disputant, even in that interruption, is contributing to the overall process, you'll have some decisions to make as a mediator as what you allow and what you don't allow. Now, one other comment that I would make before we get to this final stage is that notion that we talked about, whether there's 5 stages or 4 stages or 7 stages, you can see, again, because it's not a linear progression, that it doesn't really matter that we move perfectly through the stages as long as we hit them all. Of course, I like to move through the stages in order, but it's not always possible with my disputants because they take me back. So we saw, for example, the tendency in stage 2 to go to 4. That's the tendency in storytelling to start generating solutions. And then the other tendency we saw is being in stage 4 and then going back to storytelling. And as a mediator, you want to evaluate, is that making a contribution to our understanding of the situation, of the conflict? Is it giving us progress towards solving it? At the end of the day, it's still all has to get done. And so the only comment I would make is the more structured you can be as a mediator, the better progress you might be able to make in some settings, because maybe it's that lack of organization in the first place that makes this conflict so confusing for the disputants. The other comment that I would make is it's important as mediators to use phrases like what I hear you saying, or what I'm observing at this point, or the issues that I seem to hear from both of you. You'll hear all those kinds of phrases being used by mediators to kind of move us along in that progress bar. So we saw at the end of this last segment, we saw the agreement being made, and we know that that's not the end of the story. So I am a strong advocate for written agreements, and so we're going to hear in this next section the discussion about the statement of the agreement that they've made, and then they'll also talk about the testing to make sure what will happen if someone doesn't follow through on this agreement. And so let's take a look now.
Welcome back, Jerry. Welcome back, Kathy. One thing that didn't make it into our agreement that I'd like to discuss now that I have you here is the repair person.
Well, I think it's necessary. I feel like moving the AC to the back will probably ease the noise problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, once it's back there, it'll be pretty far from my apartment. So even though I think there's something wrong with your AC, it won't matter.
Okay, very good. So this mediation agreement is voluntary and is entered by the following parties, Kathy and Jerry. The terms of the parties' agreement are as follow. Jerry will move the AC unit to the back window by Monday, April 23rd by 5 p.m. Kathy will help Jerry move the unit on Monday. Kathy will move her light to the bathroom by midnight tonight, April 22nd. Parties agree to treat each other with respect, and parties agree to communicate via text or in person. Now, the last thing I'd like to discuss is what if communication falls through or doesn't go as planned? What would you like to do then?
Basically, what happens if any of these agreements are not met? What would you guys like to do?
I'm not, I mean, we could come back here and try to figure out then, but I mean, I feel pretty confident about what we have said.
Okay. So coming back to mediation.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kathy?
can we just put in there to be safe, like, yeah, if anything goes wrong, we can come back here and work it out. 'Cause
Okay.
Okay.
This is better than,
And the last
Yeah.
stipulation will be that if, for whatever reason, communication doesn't work and there's any issues, you both agree to come back to mediation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So the last thing here is, can you, Kathy, can you please sign and date right there on the bottom?
Okay, and we will be making copies of this agreement for you both to take home.
Jerry,
So
on
you
this side,
have
please.
copies of that. Please sign right here. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you both for coming to this
thank
mediation
you so
session.
much, thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So as we saw in the last stage, this is the part where the mediators get a signed written agreement. And the comment I would make as a practitioner is that this isn't always a perfect process. So as you saw, when they got to the point of writing, they realized they hadn't circled back and decided what to do about the repair person. So what I would say is, wherever you are in that process of writing things up, you just start from that point and go forward. So let's say you detect that something's not put in your written agreement. You can go back and actually ask your disputants what they think about it. In this case, they decided it didn't matter. So then they went through the written agreement, and as you saw, they went through the details of that, including what will happen if it isn't followed through. Now, of course, it's a very simple example. The whole design is to show you different parts of the mediation process. And as you can see, when we look at an example like this, we have lots of different ideas of phrasing that we can use and the challenges, honestly, of executing the entire process. If you can get the parties to have a signed written agreement that they believe reflects what they wanted to accomplish, then I think that really circles the whole process up for them. And if they leave with a document that gives them specifics, that's even better. One of the comments that I always say to mediators when we're in court is, I think it's important for the details to be there on that written agreement so that the individuals can, when they're at their own kitchen table, back away from mediation, read this agreement and know what to do. And so that's kind of my marker for what makes an effective written agreement. I know it seems very practical and maybe not as theoretical or fancy, but when we're talking about it, that's what we really need, is to help people actually know what to do instead of just theoretically. So you heard the timing, the dates, and we usually use the word by, not on. So we don't say we're going to move the air conditioning unit on the 23rd. We say by the 23rd, and we give a time. And the reason is that things change sometimes. People want to accomplish the task earlier. And so if we just have a deadline, then that helps individuals execute. All right, so that wraps up our role play today. Thank you for watching that. The next section we're going to do is the last section of our show today, and that is the question and answer period, where we take various questions off of the discussion board, and then in this case today, I will answer some of those. So the last section that we're going to cover today is the questions that you've been asking, or topics that you've been indicating on the discussion board. And they aren't in any particular order, but since I don't have a guest today, I'm going to answer these questions. So one question that's come up is, what do I mean by the overall sense of communication? And when I talk about the sense of communication, I'm talking in a broad way, the connection between you and your disputants. And your co-mediator, if you have one. And this overall sense of communication is the sense that individuals believe they're being heard and the extent that you are connecting with those disputants. Now, of course, one of the concepts to talk about here is this notion that you don't want to side with them. And so you can see there's a delicate balance between being connected and then not siding. So what I like to say is, you connect with the people, you don't connect with the issues. That's a very important distinction. Connect with the people, like I'm hearing you, I'm understanding, I'm learning from you, but we don't connect with the issues like I'm learning that you're right or you're wrong. So there's sort of an interesting distinction that needs to happen there. Another question, what about education level and word choice? Now this is a really interesting challenge faced in every situation that I mediate in. What I like to say is we have to keep it very simple. And the reason we have to do that is we're unfamiliar with the individual's actual understanding of what we're saying. So I had an example I would give you. I was doing a small claims case maybe a year ago, something like that, and I noticed that it was possible that my disputant was illiterate, that couldn't read. He denied all the different documents, said, no, you go ahead and show me where to sign, and I don't need to read it, and he would make these different comments that kind of tipped me off to suspecting that that might be the case. And so what I need to do as a mediator is become very interested and a student really of the context so that I know the word choice that makes the most sense for my disputants. As you think about that, of course, think about if you need to have a higher level of word choice because of the audience is highly educated. So what I would say is adaptability is a key factor here, but I would still favor simplicity over complexity anytime. What about liability? Can I be subpoenaed? And this is a question that's come up a few times on the discussion board. One of the things that I would mention about that is the confidentiality agreement that you sign and that the disputants sign, so remember the mediators sign it too, that is the document that you would take to the judge if you were subpoenaed. So one question or comment that a lot of people mix up is they'll say, can I be subpoenaed? And the answer is yes. But will you be required to testify? The answer is no. So the judge would look at that mediated agreement that has that clause in it and would excuse you from the case because you are saying that what has been talked about in mediation isn't something that we're going to talk about in court. And so we distinguish those processes, and we do it to reduce our liability, of course, and to give us a little freedom in terms of helping people in mediation, but also defining those processes as actually separate. Another question, what is the typical hourly rate for a mediator? This is a great question. So in Los Angeles, it ranges from about $150 to $275 an hour. That's about what I would ballpark an average mediation hourly rate is. But a couple of things I would say. One is if you're in a different setting than Los Angeles or even in Los Angeles, maybe call around and ask. And so do some research as you try to set like what your rate would be. And then the other comment is sometimes fee structures are not only hourly. So for example, some mediators will say they will donate the first hour free and then they will charge a different rate after that. So they might say the first hour is free and then it's $250 an hour after that time. The other part to indicate in the fee structure would be what happens on partial hours, meaning is it prorated or any part of an hour counts as an hour. So you'd want to distinguish that for your clients. Another question, how can you improve eye contact during the opening statement? And this is something that I think is difficult to do actually, because you're balancing wanting to say the specific words because they matter, because they're part of our formal agreement, but then you're also trying to achieve that rapport and connection. So the comment that I would make there is to really try to balance those two things. What I do is I tend to bold certain words to act as reminders for how the areas that I'm going to cover to try to also increase my eye contact. So you could do that on your opening statement, and when you do your midterm video submissions, you can use that strategy possibly to bold certain words to remind you to have eye contact and talk about those, sort of like having talking points really as a mediator. So anyway, those are our questions for today, and I look forward to answering more questions next week. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.